Yoru ga Kuru Square of the Moon Remastered revised Alicesoft's 2001 cult classic. This update is kind of modest, but it helps the original run on modern PCs with tweaked balance for newcomers, and on top of that it adds quality of life options. What matters though is that players can finally experience this odd blend of visual novel, stat-raising sim, and dungeon RPG with an official English localization.
見学から遅刻とは先が思いやられるわ。何？固いこと言うのね。学校は終わってるんだからいいじゃない。
Yoru ga Kuru introduces Ryu Hamada, who thinks he is an ordinary high schooler until a late-night walk turns into a supernatural chase. Cornered by a monster, he survives by stumbling into a mysterious red-eyed girl. And when a second blue moon appears, the city fills with creatures, and Ryu learns he is a firefolk, who it turns out to be one of the few who can actually fight back against these. This eventually leads him to join up with Izumi Kagura's astronomy club, which is a front for a growing team of students determined to stop the calamity. Like most Alicesoft games, Yoru ga Kuru mixes visual novel storytelling with old-school RPG mechanics. Each in-game week begins with training. You have 4 core stats to work on: strength, speed, dexterity, and mind, which each determine combat performance. Investing too heavily in one stat during a single session is ineffective, so the loop nudges players towards balance growth. After solo drills, Ryu can spend a day with a teammate. Each partner boosts specific stats and unlocks character events. Bonding with the heroines ultimately leads to some intimate scenes with unique endings, but hanging out with the boys grants some handy bonuses and some playful banter. Alas, you can't date everyone here. But anyway, the entire game brings a dash of early 2000s charm. Every Sunday, training turns practical as the club descends into a multi-floor dungeon hidden beneath the old school. Monsters lurk in unseen tiles, chests hide healing items or elemental rocks, and traps punish careless steps. Movement, battles, and searches all drain a shared pool of 1,000 steps, so resource management is pretty vital here. The remaster lets players reveal hidden elements, double experience and training points, and raise item caps to 99. Alicesoft purists may actually ignore these assets, while newcomers to these old-school RPGs can toggle them on to breeze through some of the grinding. Story events also push the party into other dungeons without step limitations. These side areas are simpler but inescapable until cleared, so finding healing spots become a small puzzle of its own. Despite new options, the routine can wear a little repetitively thin. The main labyrinth rarely changes its layout, and clicking the auto map to warp only moves you within a floor, so the climb remains floor by floor at each visit. Visual novel fans who prefer narrative momentum also may find this repetition a little tiring. Battles play out in classic turn-based fashion with parties of 3. Each character excels against certain monster types, swings with distinct ranges, and wields skill tied to elemental affinities. For example, Izumi slashes the entire front row but spends 10 spirit points to do so, while the agile Keuka can strike any enemy in the front or middle row more quickly. Spirit points double as health and skill fuel. Every big attack risks a chunk of your life, and crowded fights can feature up to 9 enemies, so deciding when to unload or defend keeps tension high during these fights. There are some items that can quicken actions, but sloppy planning can stumble your intended turn order. The overall system is pretty easy to wrap your head around, but strategy is actually rewarded. Ryu's Imagine Blade is a wild card. Elemental rocks gathered in dungeons forge new swords, each with its own reach and bonuses. Unequipped blades become extra skills, encouraging experimentation. Crafting, however, is gated by Ryu's current stats, so you can't forge a powerhouse weapon without first training the relevant attribute. The restriction feels a little arbitrary, but it does nudge players to keep their build balanced. Artwork in this release has been upscaled, and character sprites still exude that unmistakable early 2000 aesthetic. If you look closer though, you may spot some blurred backgrounds in the visual novel scenes and thick outlines on Ryu's training animation that clash with the softer art elsewhere. Audio is honestly pretty great. A brand new Japanese voice track brings new energy to the familiar lines, and an added text log helps if you missed any snippet of dialogue. More importantly, this is the first time Yoru ga Kuru is available in English. The script flows well, and while a handful of typos may have slipped through, they rarely broke the immersion. Yoru ga Kuru, Square of the Moon Remastered, delivers a distinctive cocktail of visual novel storytelling, stat-raising strategy, and dungeon crawling. Some repetition and rough edges remain, and the graphical cleanup could have been a little sharper, but the modern convenience and full translation makes this classic far easier to appreciate. If the promise of a group of high schoolers arming themselves under a haunting blue moon intrigues you, this remastered is a worthy way to experience a slice of Alicesoft history. Noisy Pixel is giving Yoru ga Kuru, Square of the Moon Remastered, a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.